Yo, what's up, guys? It's Eugene, aka Matwix. For those of you guys who are just joining us, this is indeed part four of our video series. The footages that you are seeing right now are from a few months ago, which is mid-July to um, August, end of August, during my stay, 6 week stay in Canada with Frank Yang and friends. But anyways, I want to go ahead and get into talking more or continuing on the topic of my ayahuasca experience. So in the last video, I kind of left off where my friend Amy um, went to Peru to do her ayahuasca ceremonies. Um, and how she came back and just like my friend Andrew was just telling me about how life changing and transformative it was for her. Um, Now Andrew was more when Andrew told me about his ayahuasca experience. Um, it was more of a you know he's always been I've known him to be like a pragmatic guy, very logical, pragmatic guy, very scientific guy. Because I mean he is trying to be a doctor after all. So I didn't really expect or let alone get much like woo woo spiritual type of talk from him. Um, because I mean, typically, here's the thing: like you're dealing with psychedelics here, and you're under the supervision of a shaman. So it's very normal for people to get very woo woo and like spiritual um, after doing ayahuasca. But Andrew uh, wasn't really like that. Even after doing ayahuasca, and even though he said it was very like transformative and stuff, um, he just kind of like talked about how what he got out of it was basically like these insights of how he was living his life. Um, he was living his life very foolishly. How he was taking things too personal. How, especially over like the very quote unquote small petty things in life. Um, I don't want to go too into detail, but yeah, basically, that's what he talked about, and that's all he really talked about. Whereas Amy, on the other hand, she got into the whole like Mother Ayahuasca and all this spiritual stuff, um, and all this spiritual stuff, which at the time I couldn't really relate to because I was never uh, all that spiritual. Um, like I was never really all that spiritual or religious before doing ayahuasca. Not saying that I am now, but what I am trying to say was that it was very hard to relate to Amy's experience, or at least what she was trying to talk about. Um, like I could understand what she's saying, but it was more like it's kind of like when like a Jehovah's Witness or like someone religious comes and tries to tell you about how the Bible makes sense, how it's the truth. Um, I understand where they're coming from, but I don't really like buy it. You know, I don't like buy into it. I'm just like, okay, cool. I mean, that's your beliefs, cool. You know, um, to be honest, I thought Amy, I thought she was going crazy. I thought she fucking lost her mind because she kept rambling about how how there's this entity called Mother Ayahuasca, and she is like this. I don't think she said Mother Ayahuasca is like the source of all things, but how she helped her find her way, find her path, or whatever. And in my mind, when she was telling me all this stuff, I was just like, okay. Um, and I remember Amy, like I moved to Hawaii during the summer of that year, and she actually came to Hawaii as well. Not with me, but we ended up somehow meeting up because she was vacationing there at the same time I was. I remember living in Hawaii for like 3 months, and she was there for like a week. And that week of overlap while I was living there, I remember hanging out with her, and uh, and she told me the same stuff again. How the whole Mother Ayahuasca thing, and how she kept mentioning how like that everything is meant to be, everything's predestined, like everything's predestined to happen, everything was already like yeah, predestined. So like she started she was now like a firm believer in predestination or destiny, um that everything happens for a reason, that everything is was meant to happen, that everything was set in stone already. So which is like the same thing as like what the Christians believe. I don't know about other religions, but like I kind of know about Christianity because I've been to church for the first 20 years of my life. But anyways, yeah, she kept rambling about that again in Hawaii, as she did around springtime when she just came back from her ayahuasca ceremony. And yeah, I mean, she just never seemed the same after her ayahuasca trip. Whereas Andrew, he still pretty much seemed the same, just I guess more decaf, more cool. But Amy, like I honestly thought like she fucking like lost her fucking mind. Not like complete cuckoo, but like just whenever she brought up ayahuasca, I was just like, oh, here we go again. Like the whole fucking Mother Ayahuasca and shit. And I mean, of course, like as I talk about this now, like now I really understand like where she was at. But at the time, I had no idea because I just had no idea. Like I said, I was never spiritual or religious, even though I went to church for 20 years of my life. I never bought into that shit. The only reason why I went to church was to um, eat donuts, um, and play with my friends. That's why I went to church for 20 years. It's like just social, just that social life. But that was about it. I didn't really care for Jesus Christ or any of those scriptures. Um, but anyhow, back to Amy. So yeah, so even though Amy was talking about all those things and how those things kind of turned me off a little bit, not turn me off from like from like ayahuasca, but just the fact, just the stuff she was saying didn't really interest me, and I was just kind of like, whatever, okay, let's get back to just hanging out like normal people. Um, Although she wasn't like I said, she wasn't like cuckoo crazy like a fucking one of those like bums on the street that you see. Um, but just the stuff she was saying was just she sounded like a some kind of religious cult person, I guess. But other than that, she was like totally fine, totally relatable. But she did mention that um, that she met this friend on Instagram by the name of Ryan, and he actually is very, or he's like the assistant to um, this shaman, that that actually lives in the States. And she said that the shaman actually is based off New York, but she holds ceremony not only in New York, but I guess in different states in America. So Amy mentioned that she knew that I wanted to do ayahuasca, that I was definitely interested in doing ayahuasca. So she told me about how this shaman, Ryan, and the shaman lady um, was actually coming to Los Angeles uh, later that year. That she was coming in. The shaman was coming in November 2016, and that I should really seize the moment, um, and that I should do it. Take the opportunity to do the ayahuasca ceremony. And I was like, yeah, yeah, let's do it. I'm down. Um, that's awesome. You know, uh, I kind of wanted to, go to Peru and get the full experience, but um, when an opportunity comes knocking on my door and I want something, even though the situation might, quote unquote, not be ideal or how I imagined, I still fucking do it, because I guess, fear of missing out, right? FOMO. But yeah, I told Amy to let Ryan and the shaman know that I'm down to partake in the ayahuasca ceremony that they're holding in Los Angeles. And um, actually, they were actually coming in both September and November of 2016. So they wanted me to come to the September one, uh, but I didn't make it due to, I forgot what obligations, like work related or family related. But um, I did have the opportunity to go in November, so I signed up for the November one. But yeah, so I signed up for the November one. I think I paid like 500 something dollars total for both ceremonies. You have the option of doing either one day or 2 days. So basically, the schedule goes is that Friday you meet up around 9 p.m. The ceremony starts at 9 p.m. and then it ends, you know, like the ceremony goes on throughout the whole night, and it ends when everybody's awake from their trip, or when everybody's so quote unquote sober, right? And then the same thing happens Saturday night. So I signed up for both nights because uh, it was recommended that first timers, in order to get their breakthrough, usually it's advised that they go they go all out, all in, and do both nights. And so I'm just like, whatever. I've done psychedelics before. I've done shrooms. I've done acid. I've done marijuana. When I used to go to Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, I have had those experiences, and yeah, I've had those experiences. So I wasn't like scared or anything about doing ayahuasca, even though Andrew did specifically mention um, that it was like the toughest thing that he's done. And I think Amy mentioned that as well. She said that it was like one of the toughest thing that she's ever done. They briefly described their, trip, how they experienced, like, just, they like, or Andrew, like, I think he like shat himself and just lost control over his body. And I think Amy said she felt like she was possessed. Uh, but it didn't really scare me because you know, like I said, I've done like shrooms, acid, marijuana before, and I've had bad trips. Uh, but I've had enough bad trips where, you know, afterward, like I get like eventually like that shit, you get sober and all is dandy, right? So, you know, I was like, you know, I like, okay, what ayahuasca, like, so what if the trip is long? Like shroom trips are long, shouldn't be that bad. So I had zero like fear going into it. Um, had I researched, done my own re- done more of my own research going into doing ayahuasca, maybe I might have been more scared doing it. Maybe not, um, because at the end of the day, I really take everything with a grain of salt, um, especially with the stuff I read online. And even if it's the stuff that like my friends tell me, I don't like completely buy into it until I experience it for myself. So, anyways, I was, in fact, I was like really excited to do this ayahuasca thing. I'm like, and and I remember meeting up with Ryan beforehand because he wanted to meet up with me, and he wanted to know my reasons, my intentions for doing ayahuasca. I remember telling him that, you know, I wanted to be more real. Um, that I wanted to, and I was being honest with him when I told him this. Like, I want to be a more real in terms of like more open with and honest with people, um, and also, you know, kill the ego and stuff like that. Um, so these are just like concepts. I'll get into more of this later, but these are just like more concepts that I don't really know what I'm really talking about at the time, but they seem like, you know, like things that I should be going for, if you know what I mean. Because like, what does every fucking self development book talk about? Kill the fucking ego. You know, if you want to grow, kill the ego. Uh, which the funny thing about ego is that it's not what it seems, which I'll get into again later. But kill the ego and the whole like be more real, be more genuine type of stuff. Um, so yeah, that's what I told him, and Ryan basically told me that, you know, this ayahuasca thing might really help me out with that. That, you know, that he was really glad that I signed up for this stuff, and I'm just like, oh, of course you would say that. You're this is your, you know, you're the assistant to the shaman. Got to make that money. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I'm just like, yeah, cool. Let me just sign up for this shit. So yeah, November finally came around, and sure enough, I Amy actually uh, was supposed to do the second night, not the first night. The first night she's just a volunteer helper, because apparently, um, I didn't think much of this at the time, but apparently, you know, helper there's always a few helpers involved assisting the shaman so that, you know, nothing goes wrong. I mean, these are some very potent psychedelics, so you know, if people have a bad trip, they're gonna have a bad fucking trip. Um, and so like, but I didn't really think much of it. I'm like, oh, cool, helpers. You know, they probably. I remember like Amy and Andrew telling me about how there's a lot of purging, meaning like a lot of puking, a lot of vomiting. Like you're almost guaranteed to vomit for sure. It's very rare that no one vomit. It's very rare that a person doesn't vomit after ingesting ayahuasca. But you know, I thought, you know, okay, the helpers are probably there to fucking just clean up the mess, you know, the vomit, the buckets, clean the buckets afterwards and shit. Or in case anyone pees or shit themselves, their help with cleaning up with that. So I didn't really think much of it. Of course, later I'm like, it all makes sense, uh, but yeah, November came around, and I go to the ceremony, right? And then And then you know, I was told to bring my sleeping bag. I was told to bring some snacks, and oh, and leading, I think like a week or like a few days leading up to ayahuasca, you're not supposed to eat any like red meat or poultry. I think the only like animal protein that you can eat at the most is like fish. And also like basically like they want you to eat a clean diet, very clean, like I guess bro diet, almost vegan pretty much, except for the fish part. Like no dairy and stuff like that. Uh, they want you to eat that stuff so that you have the full like optimal experience during your ayahuasca ceremonies, and also you know stuff like don't have sex or jerk off or whatever at least like a week prior to ayahuasca. Don't do like weed or other medications like a week prior to ayahuasca and stuff. So they have all these like guidelines and rules uh, that you're supposed to uphold um, before ayahuasca, and they said to take those seriously because like this shit for real, you know. So of course, you know, I like me, even though I had like no fear going into it, I still I still like follow the rules because you know, of course, like I'm the kind of person who when I do something, I want to make sure I get the full experience and I go all in. So I did my part and maintained a clean diet. Didn't have sex or I don't jerk off, so I didn't have sex for you know I think like a week or something like that, at least a week out, like that, like it was recommended. And then when I get there Friday night uh, for the ceremony, you know the shaman was already there, Ryan was already there, Amy was already there, and then there was like I think 20 other people participating in the ceremony. Um, and they all brought their sleeping bags and stuff, and everyone was sitting in a circle. I think I was like one of the last couple people who are there, who got there, and um, yeah, everyone was in their had their sleeping bag, blankets laid out and stuff in a circle. Shaman was there, setting up her stuff, and yeah, there was like Amy and a couple other volunteer helpers, um, and they all gave us like these buckets, these little buckets, which is for the purging, you know, the vomiting part. Um, so I was like, cool, you know, I was excited. I had, like I said, I was not anxious or nervous at all because I didn't know what the fuck to expect. I didn't do any research on this or barely any research. Maybe I researched for like I think I researched for like one day, um, but yeah, but it wasn't like I didn't research like the negative effects of ayahuasca or anything like that. It was more like I was looking at more of like the travel vacation side of it. So I was actually looking more at the you know like oh you can go to Peru, experience Machu Picchu and shit. I didn't really research the ayahuasca part. So yeah, like no real expectations from this. Um, Other than the only expectation I had was, oh, I'm gonna have like a good trip, like a fun trip, um, like I did, you know, with shrooms or acid in the past. So that's what I was thinking. I know, pretty crazy, right? I dropped like $500 for a psychedelic trip, but in the back of my mind, you know, I remember Andrew and Amy telling me how transformative it was, positively transformative it was. So I guess that's where like dropping the $500 really was no problem because you know like I wanted a transformative experience. Sure, I want a good experience, but you know what I really wanted was to grow. But anyways, yeah, so I get there, everybody's all setting up, and sure enough, the ceremony starts. They read us this. Oh, they have all the lights turned off, and then they light like little candles throughout the. Basically, it took place at like this little gym. They rented out like a gym, like a big gym. One of those like dojos where they teach like martial arts. So there's like a mat floor, so where everybody can be comfortable and stuff like that. But yeah, they basically turn off all the lights. They lit up little candles so that it's not like completely dark, where people can still, you know, um, like walk around and stuff without like tripping over stuff. And I remember Ryan reading to us like this little, I guess, script that they read all the time to the participants, which goes something along like, "Oh, welcome to ayahuasca ceremony. Like good luck on your journey. You're gonna have a great journey. Uh, Hopefully, you get insights. Blah blah blah. Just remember, just remember that you are safe. That the shaman is watching over you. That we're all here um, to get to be on to get our own uh, to be on our own journey and stuff, like all this shit, right? All this spiritual jibber jabber shit. And I'm like, cool, cool, cool. Let's get this started already. And yeah, sure enough, the shaman starts chanting, playing this music. Um, Actually, no, I went ahead of myself. So she brings out like these two bottles, um, or one bottle, I think. It was like looked like a size of like a 1 liter like a 1 liter bottle, and that was the ayahuasca. Um, and they had these little like shot cup, like those Dixie shot cups, paper Dixie shot cups, and we're just going around the circle, um, um, taking those shots. Like the shaman was individually calling up people, giving everyone shots. And she mentioned how, like, if you feel like you need more shots, then we're gonna go through another round. But everyone's gonna take a shot. I remember her mentioning that if it's your first time, um, definitely let her know that if it's your first time, she's gonna give you a higher dosage. Which to me, I was like, what the fuck, a higher dose? If it's your first time, like usually, like typically, it's the other way around, right? It's like if it's your first time, like a smaller dosage is like recommended. But I guess not in the case of ayahuasca. So that was kind of weird already. Um, but yeah, like I forgot to mention this earlier, but like everybody was supposed to dress in white. Um, I I did wear like white, like a white T-shirt, and I think like gray sweatshorts. Um, but everybody else was wearing like those like white, kind of almost sheer white um, clothing that a lot of spiritual teachers wear. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but everybody was wearing that stuff. And everybody did introduce themselves. We went around and gave us like a brief introduction of how we found out about ayahuasca and why we're trying to do it, how many times we've done it. And I think half the people have already done it before, and the other half were like me, like first timers. But but yeah, I mean everybody seemed, I don't know, like half the room seemed kind of normal. I guess more of the newcomer types. But oh shit, okay, I'm running out of footage, so I'll see you guys in the next video. So look out for part 5 of these video series. All right. see you guys in the next video.